Hi, this is Zach with the US stock highlights here on Share Talk for Friday, the 12th of March. Starting off with Pliags, where there's a rising trend channel. That's been in place on the daily chart from as long ago as basically this time last year. Top of the channel, its resistance line heading towards $14.80, and that's a target over the next 1 to 2 months, so maybe going into May for that particular target. We ending the week with a gap through resistance or gap towards resistance, and get a decent close above the 3rd of March peak at $8.93. Should be looking towards that $14 target relatively smoothly and quickly. If you are cautious on this situation, wait for an end of day close, but there has been, and I suppose enough done here with the rebound above the 50-day moving average at $6.86 to show that the stock is on its way. Next contender is stock which has been covered here quite a lot of times and even was mentioned by MarketWatch today, so it's in with the big league at the mainstream media. Here we've got a situation where we've got this reversal after the gap higher in February, neckline resistance at $11, so looking for an end of day or end of week close above $11 really to get this going. If we do, then we could be off to the upper teens, which is was resistance on the way down, $17.25 from the beginning of last month, and $22 there at the top of the channel, or rather the broadening triangle that's been in place since the beginning of last year. So everything really depending on a clearance of $11 and relying on no sustained price action back below $9.50, which has been the support area over the last couple of weeks. Moving along to a less famous company, but one which has its charting merits at the moment, AMREP Core. Here you can see another gap through resistance, and I suppose if just trade off one technical thing, it would be the gap through resistance. This actually has the added benefit of having a gap through the 50-day moving average as well. That's a pretty reliable signal. We've seen that on a stock here in the UK today, 88 Energy, which I think has a US counterpart, but whatever the case here with AMREP, end of day close through the February peak, $9.44, should be enough to open up $12 by the end of next month, and perhaps the way things are going, even by the end of this month. Stop loss on this, an end of day close back below $8.24, and the 50-day moving average is probably the best place at the moment. On to a stock which I wasn't familiar with, but Aesthetic Medical is the name of the company, and here we've got a typical setup that's you can see on quite a few charts at the moment. The peak in February, and then the pullback towards the last week of the month, and then the March rebound. In this case, we've had a bounce off the 50-day moving average at 582. We've also broken this week's neckline resistance, which is probably the best stop loss at the moment, $7.14. While there's no end of day close back below $7.14, we're looking towards the top of the rising trend channel from the end of August, as high as the $12 area, and hopefully that's going to be seen by the end of next month. On to a stock which has got a name that tends to stick in the mind for some reason, EBON International. Here we've got a recent break to start March of the resistance line there from September. That was at $6.62, also breaking the 50-day moving average as well in that area. The current situation is that while we're above the initial March resistance, that was at $8.42, we're looking for a $14 target, which is the top of a rising September trend channel, and that can be seen as soon as the end of this month, or I suppose if you're more generous, going into next month. Stock which has had a mention now and again, but is back today to follow up on where it's going. Nocturnal Therapeutics. Here the initial price action was a brief bear trap below the 50-day moving average. That's around $6.05. But the overall construction here very, very bullish in the sense that we had the gap down, then the gap up. So an island reversal after a bear trap through the 200-day moving average, golden cross buy signal. We've had everything really on this particular chart. But the main message is that gap down in November was clearly designed to remove any weak hands from the long side. And we've had a reasonable progression since then. Final shakeout, obviously, to start this month, but while we're above the 50-day moving average at $6.80, then we're looking towards $12 on the top of the September trend channel. If you want to tighten up the stop loss a bit more, that initial March peak was at $7.18, so an end of day close back below that might improve the risk reward for those who are so minded. Next situation is in the same sort of area. Here we go with Regulus Therapeutics. Here we've got a break of previous monthly resistance, so the old February peak at $1.97. While there's no end of day close above that, and on an end of day close or a weekly close above that, we're looking to $3.50 by the end of next month, and that's the top of a rising November trend channel. At this stage, only an end of day close back below today's low at $1.58, really killing the bull scenario. Moving on to another hopeful candidate, synthetic biologics. Here we've got a gap through the 50-day moving average, which completes an island reversal, and a bear trap, a one-day bear trap below the 200-day moving average. Very nice that this is not a penny stock, but a cent stock, so that might be attractive to some people. The view here is that while there's no end-of-day close back below yesterday's high in the floor of the gap, 73 cents, we're looking towards $1.40, which is the top of a rising trend channel from the end of August by the end of next month. So that's quite an interesting speculative situation for those who like the tiddlers. On to SEEL Therapeutics. Note the common sector for many of these stocks. Here we've got another gap through the resistance, the favored setup, or the easier setup rather, because it's rather easy to spot. Last month's resistance at $4.44. End of day close or weekly close above that, either today or early next week, could point the way to $8 by the end of next month. Stop loss and end of day close back below yesterday's high at $3.15. If you can afford that. Otherwise, I suppose an end of day close back below today's initial low at $3.65. Just a couple of stocks to go now. First one reminds me of my mortality, 22nd Century Group. Here we've got a break of the 50-day moving average at $2.91, and we get an end of day close back above that. We could hit the top of a rising trend channel from October as high as $5.40 by the end of next month. Stop loss, I suppose, back below this week's initial resistance at $2.50 should cover it for most scenarios. Finishing off with another penny stock, which has been very popular here, Zomedica. I think we've been following it from below 50 cents, or maybe below 20 cents, but the current situation is we've got a rising trend channel that's been in place since October, and while there's no end of day close back below the floor of the channel at $2, we're looking towards the top of the channel at $4 by the end of next month, if we are lucky. If you're cautious, I suppose you just wait for an end of day close through the initial March resistance at $2.25, but looks as though we're on our way. I think at this stage really only back below the 50-day line as a trading stop at $1.48, really killing the bull argument, but ideally the shares remain above $2. That's it from me this week. Join me again next week.